Welcome to the Christie Taylor Show. I'm your host, Christie Taylor. Super excited to be here in the month of March. And to kick things off, I want to celebrate women. It is Women's Month, and I'm going to go all the way to Toronto, Canada to celebrate an amazing singer-songwriter who is blowing up the charts with powerful music. We're talking Kaisha Lee, singer-songwriter musician. The Gemini Award winning Toronto-born artist, Kaisha Lee, has had music in her soul from a very young age, staying close to her Jamaican musical roots, singing in gospel and classical choirs. She shares her musical talents as a voice professor at Sheridan College, performing on many U.S., Canadian, and international stages from iHeart Reggae Showcase, Montreal, Toronto, London, UK, New York, Afrofest, One Love Fest to President Obama's inauguration. Lee's new single, Got Somebody, follows a string of successful releases, including My Love is Rare, Haile, and Let Go. With roots steeped in faith and belief, her new single focuses on human resilience, written from her heart during COVID-19. Her connection with audiences everywhere is instant, and her performances are unforgettable. I want you all to help me welcome to the Christie Taylor Show, none other than, yes, we're talking Kaisha Lee. Hey, lady.
Hi.
Hey. Wow, all the way to Toronto. You know, I've been on a Toronto spree lately, having to talk to a couple of filmmakers, cool. And now to talk to a singer-songwriter. It's so good to have you on the show. So, okay, first of all, Jamaican Roots, but you live in Toronto. Give me that backstory on that.
Both my parents are Jamaican. They moved to Toronto and they had me, and then they moved back to Jamaica, and then they moved us back to Toronto. So yeah,
So you're one of the fortunate ones who had an opportunity to actually have some Jamaican influence as a child. So tell me about that.
It was great because I got to know my grandparents, because after moving back to Canada, you see them once a year for, Christmas or, whatever holiday. But it was great because I remember things like, I'm going to tell you the most interesting thing to me. Two of the most interesting to me about living in Jamaica as a child. Actually, there are three things. One, going to school and coming back to Canada and having to be in a class to change the way I speak. It was, that was weird. Two, in being young and seeing Rasta men on the street and being very, being young and just being so, I'm like 4 and I'm like amazed by these Rasta men. And I would say to my dad, I'm like, how come you're not like them? Oh, wow. Who are they? How come you don't speak like them? I would ask my dad that as a child. And I was just, amazed by these. And, so anyway, and then nobody in my family is Rasta. So
explain that to me, because oftentimes in the States, we don't understand the different subcultures. So when it comes to that, what exactly is a Rastafarian?
A Rastafarian.
The Rastafarian or Rastafarian?
Rastafarian. I think with dialect people pronounce it different. I say Rastafarian. Rasta is the belief in the divinity of Haile Selassie. Rasta is a livity. It's the original Christianity. You can learn a lot about Rastafari through the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, because that's the church in which Haile Selassie followed. Rasta is also about the knowledge, upliftment of our people so that we can know where we came from so we can spring forward. And so we learn a lot about where we came from in Ethiopia and what we need to do, our way of doing things to go forward rather than a way that we were taught when we were stolen, from our various lands. So Rastafari is a defender of all of that, and it's something that's very dear to my heart. And it's mostly I don't like when people call it a religion. Having said that, if someone were to say, "What religion are you?" I would say Rasta and just not really think of it as an issue in my head. You know what I mean? Because I understand. I mean, I'm North American. I'm Canadian, right? So I know how we speak here, and I know how things are looked at sort of there, and I love and I accept in all of that I'm presented to, and speaking that way when needed.
Okay, so you speak to the fact that you're North American because, of course, yes, the majority of your life you lived in Canada.
I've grown up here, yes.
So when it comes to the Jamaican lifestyle, could you
Mm.
explain it to me?
The lifestyle, liberty of Rastafari. Liberty of Rastafari has to.
No, the Jamaican lifestyle, how does that differ from being Canadian? Some of the
Oh,
nuance.
oh my goodness, there's so much. There's so much. I mean, I was just there a few months back, and literally just the climate changes everything about my skin, my hair, my so like the Kaisha in North America is a different Kaisha than Kaisha in Jamaica, and that's what it would be for everybody, because you're presented with a different. I'm not going to say better. I'll just leave it as a different climate to deal with, and it changes how you think, how you feel, how you express yourself, what you do in your day. Like here in Canada, when it's cold, I am mostly inside. When it is warm, I am mostly outside. But I'm still getting all the things done that I need to get done. But maybe instead of going to the grocery store once for the week when it's warmer, I might just go to the market and pick up a few things one day and a few things another day. But when it's cold, I'm not trying to be outside too much, right? So it changes everything about you. From so I mean that alone, you could speak to many things. You could speak to the food, you could speak to the dialect, you could speak to mentality as well. You could speak to there's a lot of things you could speak to. There's definitely a big difference in being in Jamaica and being in Canada. Absolutely.
Now, I have to tell you that one of the things that I loved about Jamaica really came from the influence of a movie called How Stella Got a Groove Back. Now, without being totally an American, and I do mean American in the sarcastic sense, are the men really that gracious? Because oftentimes in America, we, bemoan, particularly in the U.S., the relationship between black men and black women. So that movie was a great fantasy for us. But is some of that true, just as you say, in the Jamaican culture?
Yes, the Jamaican men are the most loving, the most thoughtful men you will ever meet. Ever meet. Jamaican men know how to treat women, and if they're not treating women well, it's they just don't want to in that moment. But Jamaican men will treat you good. Having said that, Jamaican men are like the smartest men in the world. I don't know, maybe some Nigerian men might argue with me on that point, but but they are very smart, okay? And so you need to just be very they will be honest with you though. One thing about Jamaican men, they're actually honest. They will, yes, they will. There are people say they will trick you, and if you've been through Jamaican man, you've been through everything, because they're very smart, but they will draw you in because they are such loving people, you know what I mean? But they are honest, so just speak up and say what you want and don't want, and decide if you want to deal with what he wants, because I think a lot of Jamaican men have a different idea of how they would like their intimate relationships to play out, and they will tell you that they won't hide it from you. North American men will hide it from you. Jamaican men won't hide it from you.
So, with that being said, I know that as a singer songwriter, and we could speak to very quickly what inspired you and in what age did you realize that music was going to be your route?
Yeah, I guess I sort of always knew, because the story is that when I was a baby, before I could walk, I would crawl up the babysitter's steps to the piano where her daughter would play, and lay there, and they would bring me back down, and I would crawl up the steps again. So as long as I heard the piano, I would like need to be there and get myself there before I could walk. So from that, they knew they should put me in piano lessons. So from there, music's just been something that it just is me. I just always, there wasn't other options to me, even when in going to school, there's no other option to me other than music in my mind. I don't think of other things. Um, that was the first part of your question. Sorry.
Which is beautiful because, okay, with that being said, as from a child to climbing and needing to have music from day one,
Yeah.
when did you decide to make it a profession? Because even though I have a
Right.
lot of musician friends who have quote unquote day jobs, but they moonlight. I know that you're a professor at a college doing
Yes.
voice as well. How did you make that decision as well?
Right. When I was 15, my piano teacher, since I was 6, passed away, Miss Lou. And it was quite a great experience for me because she wasn't just someone I saw every week for all those years. She was also a Jamaican Chinese woman. which is my family background, Jamaican Chinese. So going to her home for lessons felt like going home. She would, give me the tea and crackers, same thing my mom would give me at home while I'm waiting for the next student to run into the piano lesson, etc. So it was a very unique experience that I had and that I cherished. And I was devastated when she had passed away. But at that time, I thought to myself, I spent a lot of time at Miss Lou. I know a lot. I've seen her teach many people. Like my parents would drop me off at her house at like 4 o'clock and pick me up at 8 o'clock at night. It was like babysitter / piano lesson, sort of, twice a week. And so from there, I just said to myself, you know what, I think I can do this. And so at 16, I bought myself a beginner's piano book. I read it. And at the time I took myself to church. I told my family they had to go to church because this is what we're doing now. And I'm always a spiritual person in my family. Okay, guys, get yourselves together. This is what we're doing. And so I went to church and I started to play piano at the church, and they asked me to sing, and I said, well, do you mind if I solicit the kids at your church so I can start teaching piano lessons, because I don't like to work for people. And so they said yes, and it was at the church for a little bit, and then they said, it's not right that you're doing it here, and we can't let everybody do it here, but it's fine that we even advertise if you put it on the board or whatever, maybe you could do it at home. And I was doing it at home. So it's something that, as I was born with the entrepreneurial spirit. Both my parents are entrepreneurs, and then having that experience with Mrs. Lou, it was a no-brainer. It was an automatic thought to me that I need to be doing this, and then from there I just pursued more training so that I could, continue on in teaching voice. I never planned to teach voice, but it just sort of happened because I was seeking the knowledge, and I had that kind of heart too. I always want to learn more, so I'm always, anything I don't know, I'm pretty honest with, and then I run to figure out what is it exactly that I don't know, so that's me.
I love the fact that, one of the things that you are speaking to is your entrepreneurial spirit. And you say your family were entrepreneurs. What industry were they in?
Yes, my father is a mechanic, and he did electronics as well. My mom was actually a nurse when she came to Canada, but then she became his secretary, and they built business together.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. So, as a professor of voice at Sheridan College, where is that based in as far as Toronto? Is it like
It's
a community college or four-year university?
It's Sheridan College is it's a college, but they have the program that I teach. The students are actually from UFT, University of Toronto.
Oh,
So it's a dual program between the university and the college. I teach at Sheridan College in Oakville. There's campuses sort of all over the city. Oakville is just west of the city.
I love it. Now, Kaisha, as a singer-songwriter, of course, from a child, piano lessons, teaching voice, you also have time and a need to create your own.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that particular journey. And let me tell you, I love your YouTube channel and your website. You are fabulous, honey. So, as far as your professional career, let's talk about that.
Okay. Um, what aspect of my professional? My song.
Yeah, anywhere you want to go in that regards. When did you actually start performing professionally and recording?
Okay. Well, actually, I was singing in a choir, in many choirs actually, for quite a few years before I had enough, courage with it, enough self-love to say, I write songs. I've been writing since I was young. Why am I not doing these things? And I guess it wasn't as easy then as it is now, but there's always a way to do something at any stage, but it was really just myself holding myself back, why I never did it earlier. So I was doing, it was probably 10 years of choir before I started to record my own songs. And when I started, I just felt I felt a release. I felt like, I don't want to say powerful in a boasting sense, but like
But
I
just
felt,
like empowered, like on the inside.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I got something out that I was afraid of, and I don't feel I started when I was ready, because there are videos from, years back when I started that I've deleted off of YouTube, and oh my goodness, that's what I sounded like. And the nervousness, the stress of it all changes everything I even knew as a, a schooled vocalist, didn't even, none of that matters when your whole system is like scared, Yeah.
Now, when it comes to your videos, I see that it's an integral part of your artistry. So, are you working with local filmmakers as well?
Yes. The Got Somebody, the most recent one, was by YJ Films. So Yarin, and he had about three other guys with him, and they're students actually for here in Brampton. I'm in Brampton. I live in Brampton on the west side of Toronto, and I actually maybe they're Mississauga and Brampton. Anyway, we're in the West End, and but yeah, we got together. We had some mutual connections, and I asked if I could link them, and they were excited to work with me on this song and understood the delicacy of the message and the timing of putting it out as well, and trying to get things done in a difficult time. And it worked really well. I'm really grateful that I was able to work with them, that they were able to take the song on, and I really prefer to have visuals for my songs. I have lots of songs and I have lots of songs without visuals, but I think people in this time want to see the visual, and it makes them more interested and feel it a little bit more.
So, we're going to talk about your new song, Got Somebody. But before we do, when you talk about the visuals, are you also collaborating with the filmmakers and videographers in the story development? Because you're a writer, you're a singer songwriter. So, are you a part of that process as well?
Yes, Got Somebody is actually sort of just the story of how I created the song. Um, I was living in my parents' basement at the time during the first wave, and from there
Right,
I
about the
wanted.
first wave of COVID-19,
Yes,
first
for
wave.
first with COVID-19,
Yeah.
yeah, back in April. And so I wanted to create my music, but the studios were closed, and I was a bit nervous, not understanding what was going on or how we could, go about, life again for music. And so I had some old equipment that I hadn't even seen in years, and I thought I could use this to make a studio. I just need a couple things at the music store, and I'll be good. So I wrote my song, I went to the music store, I got my stuff, came back and put my mini little studio in my parents' basement together, and recorded it. And it wasn't perfect, and it was a bit raw and not the best recording, but because it wasn't all new equipment or anything, it was a lot of old stuff and used stuff. But it worked, and that's what I put out. Just something that was personal, like a personal message of hope and love to the entire world.
Well, let's take a quick peek at the song.
Want you to know that I'm there for you. I care for you. I pray for you. I want us to heal, but if it takes some time, we're not alone. So we got somebody. So we got somebody. Got somebody. So we got somebody. So we got somebody. Got somebody. So we got somebody. So we.
I love that. It's very hard, warming. I take it that, in Toronto, as in the States, as in Canada, all over the world, that a lot of people felt a lot of isolation, the very fact, like you said, you couldn't really go about your normal life, your normal activities, so how did COVID-19, impact you as an individual and as an artist?
Right. As an artist, it changed everything, because even I was going to put out a song, a dancehall pop song, about being having fun, being free, going out with feeling good. I got my berry smoothie and I'm good, and like, yeah, it was just not appropriate message for COVID-19, and it still isn't, and I got my high heels on and all that stuff. So anyway, I couldn't release that. I mean I had a full on plan. Like, I wanted, there were dancers. It was insane. So that had to stop. That had to stop. And there were a lot of personal things happening too, with everybody around me, and it was difficult to even know how to plan forward with, and dealing with so many family and friends issues as well, and trying to be there for each other and myself, and it's just all the uncertainty. So when I decided, when I wrote Got Somebody, I just was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm just gonna find a way to do this, and and get through. And I was grateful that my teaching, I was teaching before Sheridan College, like my private teaching. Um, my teaching, I had already started to transition to online teaching a few months back. And so I'm grateful every day that I was given that token, that nugget in my spirit to do that, because I had already had flyers, and I had already started to tell people to do online because I had just moved from Montreal. So I was basically telling my students in Montreal, we could still do lessons online, and anybody else who all over the world wants to do lessons, we can do that too. And you know what I mean? Like 3-4 months later, it's COVID-19. So that part of it I set up, right? And so I was grateful for that. But as far as performing, I mean, performing was my number one thing. And I was performing in Montreal. I was performing 3-4 times a week. I had been set up with another corporate entity, which like I had been in Montreal, and they had already booked me for something, and that was beginning to usher in. I had done a musical theater show and some other shows, but it wasn't I was building up to where I was again, and all of that is cut. There's no performances anywhere unless it's online, and it's totally a different level of performing and the whole thing behind it. So that was devastating, and that's too why I was so grateful for Sheridan to knock on my door and ask me if I'd be interested in taking the position. It was a position I've been prepared for. I said it to myself years before, about 2016, that I wanted to teach in a university when I was older, and I wrote a 4-year program and I put it on my bookshelf. Yeah, I did a jazz voice program, and I forgot about it. And then when I had done the music theater show just before COVID, my acting coach from that said to me, we need someone like you teaching our actors voice. And I said, I would love that. I would be honored to do that.
Wow. You know something, I'm just listening to how the divine constantly is guiding your life.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Yeah, 100%. And I know, as you stated, that musical theater is a part of your creative expression.
Yeah.
And even in your music videos, I can tell that, you're definitely delivering artistry on that level. And how did you begin that particular path of your creativity beyond singing?
Well, I'm just, I didn't. I'm a very passionate person. I'm a Cancerian. And everything I do, I can't sing without emotion. I can't sing without telling the story. I can't I can't tell a story without telling it. You know what I mean? And to me, that's being genuine to the story, because that means I understand it. So then I can express that to you. So the musical theater show that I did just before COVID was my first. It was my musical theater debut. It was my first one. And I auditioned and I got in. And the reason why I had an acting coach, actually, I shouldn't say the reason, but it kind of was, in order for me to have that job, they said, well, we know you're a singer, but you're clearly not an actress. So could you take some lessons? Because we think you could pull this together if you would just, get some lessons. And so I did that, and that was the lady who eventually gave me the voice job. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's well, congratulations to you, Kaisha, on all the success that you have and all the things that you do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to find out new ways that we can keep up with you and what you have planned for 2021. We're back with Kaisha Lee of Toronto, Canada, singer-songwriter, a Gemini Award-winning singer-songwriter. I would love to know more about what was Gemini Awards.
It was, you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I feel like it's a little bit hype, but yes, I did win a Gemini Award. I have it right here in my window, actually. It was for songwriting. I was part of a group, Sharon Riley and Faith Carell, some years ago, and we did a joint effort with Julie Black, who's an amazing Toronto singer. And our song and our efforts led to getting that award.
Well, congratulations. And also in the bio that really appealed to me, you said you had an opportunity to perform in relations to the Obama inauguration. Tell me about that experience.
Yes, the inauguration, I was part of a group called the Nathaniel Deccarel, and the Canadian Embassy invited us to be part of the inauguration as a gift to Obama. And so we sang at the Canadian Embassy for him.
Oh, that's beautiful. And, do you come stateside often? And if so, what's your favorite state?
No, I don't come stateside often, but okay, I love New York. I love New York. I need to go to Miami because I only experienced it as a child, and TV makes it look so enticing. And there's a lot of Jamaicans in Miami too, so I think it would be cool. And then California, I really want to go to California. I've never been there, but I mean, I'm an artsy person. Of course, I want to go to California, right?
I'm from the South. So first of all, my brother used to live in Miami. He's now a little north of that in a suburban city in Florida. And of course, he used to live in New York. I visited there, and it was I love New York to visit, but it's like, whoo, this might be a little too fast for me. But I did live in LA, and I like the vibe of LA. So there's like a East Coast, West Coast, as far as the energy and the vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we're in the what we call the dirty, honey, the deep rural South, Memphis, Tennessee, and of course, if you know anything about music, you know about Isaac Hayes and Al Green, the Barcade. I mean, a hotbed of soul, both past, present. Of course, you got to talk about B.B. King's, Elvis Presley. It's just a litany of musical talent here, as well as the other arts and jazz and music. The Earth, Wind and Fire. Maurice White was from here. Aretha Franklin was born in Memphis, so.
Yeah.
Now, I was born in Washington, D.C., but my mother, as many Southerners, they'll bring their children back south to quote unquote raise us. So,
Right.
but the Tennessee area has been home majority of my life, but I have lived other places. So, but I've only been to Canada when I was living in Detroit, and we go across the Windsor Bridge. So whatever city that was that Windsor?
Windsor,
I think it was.
Yeah.
From Detroit. So that's the only time I've ever had my feet on Canadian soil. But this has been a delight, Kaisha. Now, how can people stay in the loop with you, and what do you have for us in 2021?
Well, I would like you guys to go to my website and view the video. That's one thing. Then you can follow me on Instagram, KAISHALEE, where you can keep up to date with things that are coming up, because there are things coming up. I will have a new single out over the next, I'm going to say April. We're getting it together. It's being mixed and mastered now. We're sort of figuring out what we should do with it. But there is something coming. And I think that if you Got Somebody, then maybe I hope that you will also like this one. It's not along the same genre, but it's still of an upliftment message and something a little more up-tempo that I hope that everybody can have a little fun too.
I must tell you that I love your reggae. Of course, I do love reggae and soca. So I was vibing on your YouTube playlist. So thank you, Kaisha Lee.
Thank you so much for having me.
For being here on the Christie Taylor Show. And for those who would like to know more about her, please be sure to follow her on her social media and her website, which again is fabulous. Thank you all. See you next time.